Oh, thank you very much, Ken. Well, it's a pleasure to be here this evening. Thanks for inviting me to present another webinar here. This is the presentation I gave at Contest University this year, and it has to do with ethics and operating, which is an important topic, and something that I was very pleased to have the opportunity to present this year at Contest University. And I want to thank Tim K3LR for allowing me to present it that same presentation here as well. And you know, it's kind of interesting here when we get into to doing radio sport operating, and we're in this for a lot of exciting ways. You know, we have a number of contesters here that are joining us this evening, so I'm just kind of interested in those big guns that are here. If you would just click the little raise your hand thing on your computer. How many are with us tonight that have won the first place cash prize of $25,000 for winning first place in the CQWW contest? Well, I don't see any hands ringing. What about the $15,000 prize for first place in the ARLDX contest? Well, I thought there would be some of those. Surely we have someone that has received a $5,000 prize for first place in ARL sweepstakes here tonight.
You know, Joel, actually going to your top one, CQ Worldwide, I think it was in 2004 when I won the phone contest top score in the U.S., and I haven't seen my check for $25,000 yet, but I did get a bunch of bureau cards.
Oh, you mean there's no cash in this? Well, what? No money? Why in the world would we even want to do something like this if we don't win any cash prizes? Wow. Well, you know, explaining radio contesting to a non-ham or a non-contester is quite interesting. It just happens that my son-in-law is a 3-time world champion duck caller. He has won that world championship duck calling competition 3 times, and I was quite surprised to learn that when you win that, there are upwards of $25,000 to $30,000 of cash and prizes that you win. So when he and my daughter started dating, leading up to when they were married, he was at the house one weekend when we had a contest going on, and we had a conversation where he said, "Well, gee, what is this radio contesting that you get involved in?" And I said, "Well, we operate for like 24 to 48 hours. We log all of the stations we contact and see who can make the most contacts in the most states or the most countries." So he says, "Well, okay, well, how do you know who won?" And I said, "Well, we send our logs to the sponsor and they check them." And he looked at me and said, "Okay, that's interesting. How much money do you get for winning?" And I said, nothing at all. So he was like, "Well, why in the world do you do this?" And that really, you know, got me to thinking, why in the world do we do this? You know, why do we do radio contests? Well, we've already, you know, identified here that there are no financial rewards in it. But there is a lot of self-improvement that we can achieve in getting ready for these contests. There's a lot of personal satisfaction. You know, there's the thrill of competing one-on-one. And one of the things that I like to talk about when we get into discussing radio contesting is I do radio. I don't golf. I don't do anything. And I like to tell my buddies who are golfers that golfing is a waste of oxygen. And they ask me, "Well, why in the world would you even want a radio contest?" And I like to respond to them, do you get to go out on the golf course every weekend and compete with folks like Arnold Palmer or whoever all of the current golf stars are? And they're like, "Well, no." And I said, "Well, any weekend, any radio amateur can get on the air and compete one-on-one with Nobel laureates, rock stars, admirals, and a wide range of folks who are amateur radio operators who really enjoy radio sport competition." Then there's a lot of peer recognition. You know, it's pretty good to go to a local club meeting and be recognized by a lot of your peers for having really accomplished a good operating feat. And it's fun, and there's a lot of excitement in it. So if it's just a fun game, you might think, why in the world do we have rules? Well, let's face it, if you're going to have fun in an event such as ours, you really have to have rules, right? Well, what if there were no rules? Can you just think about for that just a minute? If we had no rules in our contest activities, what would this be like? Everyone know this guy? Yeah, this is the All-State Mayhem guy, and it would be just mayhem everywhere if we didn't have rules and we didn't have folks that really abided by those. So let's talk about the rules here just a little bit. You know, the rules are black and white. We make them gray. And this is something I remember from a Contest University segment years ago when in the ethics presentation that Randy K5ZD made. You know, and he just said, look, let's face it, the rules really are black and white. We make them gray. So let's think about this for a minute. If the rules are black and white and we make them gray, which side of the fence are you really on here, okay? There's a right side of the fence and there's a wrong side of the fence. And we need to make sure that when we take a look at this in our own personal activities, that we stay on the right side. So what if you're one of these folks who says, well, I don't actually cross the fence. I just kind of lean up against it, okay? Or maybe you're one of these folks who says, well, I don't really cross the fence. I just like to straddle it a tiny bit. So does that really accomplish anything? And what does that really say about you as a person? So here we are with a situation that I call the green grass temptation. You know, you're sitting here, you're in a situation, and the grass always looks greener on the other side. And you hop over there, and as soon as you do, what happens? Well, it looks greener back on the other side. So let's talk about ethics here for just a few moments. You know, and have a discussion about what ethical behavior is in radio contesting. We need to understand the impact of unethical behavior and some of the motivations behind it, and encourage participants to take ownership of their own behavior and encourage others to do the same. And when we talk about ethics and our attitude, let's be honest, if you don't embrace an ethical attitude, you won't put ethical behavior into practice. It's just that simple. So really, what are ethics? Well, they're simply moral principles that govern a person's or a group's behavior. Ethics put into practice is knowing the difference between right and wrong and choosing to do what's right. Why do ethics really matter? Well, here's an example. Everyone remembers Hank Aaron. Hank Aaron hit 755 home runs. Someone who was well respected and achieved this record the right way. What about this guy? All right, he broke that record, but there's a lot of questions surrounding his ethical behavior. So did he really achieve a good record and establish it correctly? People don't have an opinion, have different opinions about whether what he did was right or not. Without ethics and respect, we really have nothing. Here's a couple of guys, right? They were competitors in their own field, and what about their ethical behavior? Talk is cheap as well. We can always talk a good game and tell people about how ethical we are. Here's a guy, he had a lot of good talk. I'm not a crook, right? Well, neither am I. But how do you really know? All right, we can sit here and talk all night long about our ethical behavior and how ethical we think we are, but until our actions actually prove that, it really doesn't come out in practice. Ethical actions are very, very loud. So what are some motivations for cheating here? I like some of these. There's a desire here to be a hero on the field of competition. Achieve immortality via community legend, fame, and lasting peer recognition. Seeking community stardom. Remember I talked about liking to walk into that local club meeting and being oohed and awed by some of your peers. Prove superiority over others, like a sibling rivalry, and it may even be a means to prove self-worth. These are all powerful forces, and they're really worthy of study and some caution. So let's talk about operating here just a moment. I assume most of you probably are single operators, okay? And you operate in the single operator category. I like to operate in the single operator category. I've been to a number of multi-ops. I've hosted some multi-ops and enjoy that. But when I operate in the single op category, am I really operating single op? Well, not necessarily, because you always have these two multi-op team members with you, regardless of what category that you're operating in. And these two individuals are going to drive how you're going to operate in that contest. A lot of competition. So ethics in contesting really talks about unobservable rules that require participants to choose right or wrong on their own. You know, we don't have someone looking over our shoulder. We don't have a judge right there in our shack. We have to make those decisions. Ethics are in play, particularly when no one is looking, when we're free to choose. And the freedom to choose right or wrong really carries both responsibility and personal scrutiny. And these two team members, you got to be careful of them. Ethical behavior requires a lot of respect. Now, it requires respect for others, respect for our game, respect for ourselves, and really to get respect, you have to give respect. Here's some rationalizations for cheating. You know, there have been folks who have been caught cheating in our sport and others, and a lot of these explanations, rationalizations, are really kind of humorous. All right. Here's reason number one: everybody is doing it. Well, that's not true. Nobody was hurt. Well, yeah, the person that cheated really was hurt doing it. Nobody was watching. Well, I'll tell you what, in our radio sport competition right now, that's no longer true, because with software-defined radios and devices that are able to record entire contests right now, yeah, we got folks looking. And if you're going to be a top competitor, you need to understand that that every move you make is probably going to be recorded and can be verified. One of the rationalizations is we like to overcome unfair disadvantages. The rules don't specifically disallow a certain practice. There we go again, trying to lean up against that fence or straddle it, not actually cross it. And here's a nice one: rules apply to others, not us. All the guys at the top, I love this one, all the guys at the top are cheating. Well, I can tell you right now, they're not. I have had the privilege of being at a number of the top stations, especially the multi-op stations that are really in the top 5 time in and time out. And I can tell you right now, these folks are very strict in their operations. They adhere to the rules, and they achieve their dominance by ensuring that the time they would spend on trying to figure out how to cheat, they spend that time in perfecting their stations, their antenna systems, and their operating techniques. Now, granted, there are a few bad apples, and that's true in any sport, but these folks don't last long. You know, they're really discovered pretty quick. And this belief is really one of the primary reasons that people cheat. And it's in virtually every sport that's studied, because there's just a belief that all the guys at the top are cheating. So here's another rationalization: I'm not a big gun. It doesn't matter if I cut a few corners. Well, yes, it does. Bad habits early on become seriously bad habits later. And here's something that you really need to take to heart. Your reputation is established early. And once you establish a reputation of someone who has shady operating practices, cuts corners, doesn't really like to adhere to the rules, you can't hardly get away from that label. It's very, very important. Dealing with temptation is really, really hard. I mean, it's easy just to give in, and you know, it keeps getting easier. That little guy right there likes to stay up on your shoulder and keep drilling that into you. So think about an honor code for a minute. You know, you're responsible for your own reputation. Just simply follow the rules. Don't participate with people who do cheat. And I want to encourage you to lead by example. You never know who is listening or really who's watching. Don't do anything that you would not want to be made public. Man, how many times over the last several years have we seen folks that got caught doing something that they just really would rather not have gotten out? Be respectfully vocal. You know, confront cheating when you see it. You know, every incident is an opportunity to teach proper behavior, and provide peer checking for others. So let's think about this for a minute. What really is peer recognition? You know, we're recognized by our achievements and how we went about achieving those results. You know, our recognition is influenced by what other people say about us. And we all need peer recognition, you know, from the outside more than we realize it. You know, hey, there's no money in this, so we really need that outside critiquing. The classical hero myth lives in all of our psyche, and we rightfully cheer those who really win fairly. I mean, think about that. You know, someone who really achieves some level of achievement, a competitive win, you know, that's cheered. If they did it the right way, they're really respected. And we want to encourage others to follow the rules. You know, people respect those who are really true to their beliefs, right? Letting others influence you into not doing the right thing simply by thinking everyone else is doing it is really wrong. Here's some negative peer pressure examples. Boy, that station was way too loud in the NAQP. That guy uses a pair of 8877s and has remote receivers in Europe. Joe uses spots but enters as unassisted. Jim padded his log with bogus QSOs. Larry operated with a broad signal. I like this one. Larry operated with a broad signal to push away nearby stations to keep his frequency clear. Now, while most of these examples cannot really be proven, they are often based upon something not being quite right about a log entry. So let's look at applying some positive peer pressure. You know, be aware of what your motives actually are. Is it personal? I mean, is there some situation with a competitor and you know, you just don't like the individual? You know, if necessary, maybe you want to enlist the help of others to really deliver the message. You give the benefit of the doubt here. You know, the person may not realize what they're doing is against the rules. Now, you know, I've kind of emphasized over the first several slides here, you know, to know the rules. But, you know, there are instances where someone just simply may have a misunderstanding of the rules. You give them the benefit of the doubt. And choose the right time to discuss this with a peer. You know, they can make sure that they can listen without really feeling attacked. And don't be angry or accusatory. Treat the issue as a mistake, not a crime. And focus on the actions, not the character of an individual. And really, lastly, be there. People cheat because they see others get away with it. And not confronting the problem really hurts everyone. So let's take a little test here and think about this. Let's review some of our peer pressure techniques that we just kind of discussed. All right, here's scenario 1. We discover a local contester uses cluster spotting and enters an unassisted category. So what are we going to do? Answer A, they never win anything, so assume it doesn't matter. Avoid speaking to them ever again. Publicly call them a cheater at the next club meeting. Or D, send a letter to the contest sponsor. And E, call them up and ask if they're aware of the rules about using spotting information. Well, obviously, E is the correct answer in the approach we would want to use. It's just call them up and ask them if they're aware of those rules about using spotting information. Now, the response from the individual is going to, of course, dictate how the conversation goes from there. But just remember some of our positive peer pressure techniques that we just talked about. Scenario number 2. We're invited, I love this one. We're invited to a multi-op, and upon arrival, we discover they are running 2.5 kilowatts. What are you going to do? We're there. Loud is good. Let's operate anyway. B, turn the power down to 1500 watts when we're operating. C, loudly encourage the other ops to follow our example. D, quietly ask the owner if he always runs excessive power. Or E, leave. Now that's really hard to do if you're thousands of miles from home. You know, when I go up to W2GD for the 160 meter CQ WW contest in January, that's a long trip for me to fly from Arkansas up to southern New Jersey. And John and the gang really have a great operation. They strictly abide by the rules and have an outstanding operation. But, you know, if I were to go up there and they were doing something wrong, it would really be difficult for me to turn right around and fly back home, given the investment I've made to head up there and be involved in their operation. Or you could send a note to the contest sponsor and the FCC. Well, you know, you could look at a couple of these and say, well, when I'm operating, I could turn the power down to 1500 watts when I'm operating. Or you could leave. But that really doesn't address the problem. You know, really what you should do is just quietly ask the owner, you know, if that's what he always does, if he always runs excessive power. Here's scenario 3. A local contester has key clicks that wipe out large chunks of the band. What do? A, you sharpen up your king and give him a dose of his own medicine. B, send clicks on his frequency anonymously. I've heard that one. C, call him, tell him he has key clicks, and sign your call. D, contact him after the contest, explain the problem, and ask to help fix the problem. Or notify the contest sponsor and his rig's manufacturer. Well, D is really the correct approach to take here. Contact the person after the contest and explain the problem. You know, it could very well be that there are times when I have had a problem with my transmitter and I didn't know about it, and someone let me know, and I was glad they did so I could get it corrected. And most of us are like that. We want to know if we have a problem. So if you're the individual reporting the problem, do so in a correct way, and you know, and offer to help and explain the situation. You know, everyone wants to have a nice, clean signal on the air. The way we communicate is really determines the success we're going to have with someone. And I kind of like these Far Side cartoons here of humans trying to talk to animals. You know, we give some pretty clear, or what we think are some pretty clear instructions, and what the animals hear are just nothing but a bunch of blah, blah, blah. Actually, the lower right-hand corner one is what my wife claims I hear when she's trying to talk to me. So enough said about that. So how do we know what to do? How do we really know what to do in these situations? Well, as we said, there are written rules, all right? They're specified by the contest sponsor in writing. We've already established They're black and white. They say may, can, should, and must. And those are easy words to understand. Now, there are also some unwritten rules, all right? There are unwritten rules that really dictate expectations about our behavior. There are some interpreted norms. And there are some gray areas, but during these gray areas, ethical behavior is required. And as I stated, you know, we have to accept the fact the rules are black and white. We'll make them gray. And when that happens, our ethical behavior has to come in and really dictate how we're going to address that. Some written rules are really very clear, and some people break these anyway. Here's one: single operator categories. For all single operator categories, only one person, the operator, can contribute to the final score during the official contest period. Now, if you look at that and read that, to me, and to just about everyone, that's pretty clear. Here's another one. Total output power per band must not exceed 1,500 watts or the output power regulations of the country in which the entrant is operating, whichever is less. That's pretty straightforward. We can understand that, or you should be able to understand it. So the essence of some of the unwritten rules is just because it's not specifically prohibited by written rules, that doesn't mean you should do it, okay? Keep the contest on the radio and within the contest period. No log washing or padding. Now, I'm assuming everyone understands what log washing is. When I gave this presentation at Contest University, there were a good group of new contesters there who didn't have who didn't understand the concept of what log washing was. So if you don't know what log washing is, that is after the contest is over, going back in and trying to verify a call sign or verify a zone number or a country, you know, going to QRZ.com and looking up a station call and trying to verify some information. You might not be sure that you copied correctly. Maybe you're going in and adjusting some of the times to make sure your on and off times are the same. That's log washing. And just to be honest with you, log washing is hogwash. You just simply don't do it. Don't give or take unfair advantage of others, and learn and follow the spirit of the rules. Here's some example of unwritten rules. Do not make prearranged schedules. Now, there are some contests that do allow this in the rules. There are some that don't. So again, you have to read the rules and understand specifically what is or is not allowed in a contest. Do identify frequently. Now that just really irritates the fool out of me. If I'm tuning around, you know, looking for multipliers, I hear a big pile up on a station, and I'm thinking, oh wow, this has to be a really good multiplier here. I got to grab that, but I don't have a clue who it is. And they'll go on for 5 minutes and won't even identify it. You don't know. Identify frequently. It doesn't take me just a second or two to do that. Now, don't ask your friends just to work you, only you. That's not in the spirit of competition. You know, and that doesn't encourage your friends to really get a good involvement in a contest and really get some enjoyment and excitement from it. Get them on and let them work some other stations. You know, to be honest with you, if you're that good of an operator and you have that good of a station, your friends going out here and working some other stations is not going to impact your score. And encourage your club members to work everyone. Get those folks on the air. I can assure you they're really going to enjoy that. Do not work friends with multiple calls. And what I mean by that is, you know, if you have some friends and they have a couple of different call signs, maybe a club call or something else, don't encourage them just to work only you with multiple call signs. And do work and spot stations equally. Do not attempt telephone or text message multipliers. Do not make an effort to help casual call. Do make an effort to help casual callers enjoy the contest and make a contact. You know, you got a lot of folks here that they're not into radio sport, but they enjoy amateur radio. They know there's a lot of activity on the band, so they're going to get on. They're going to make some contacts just to have a good time for a few hours. They may not completely understand the contest. They may not fully understand the full exchange, but be patient with them, because in all seriousness, your being patient with them is going to spread some really allow you to be a good ambassador for amateur radio and really help people have a good time. And who knows, you may run into this person at a ham fest the next time, and how you how you helped him get through a contact with you, even if it took a little bit of time, is going to leave a very good impression with that individual. Don't let others help your sing. We talked about that. And don't plop down 100 hertz away from your competitor to intentionally disrupt their run. You know, I got to tell you, it never fails in a contest. You know, if I have a really good run going, you know, it never fails. I've got a great frequency that I think I'm going to hold forever. And then the next thing you know, you're starting to get crowded. And a lot of that is unintentional, especially if we start using, you know, real sharp filters and everything. But some of it is, and don't fall into that. Don't fall into that routine. ARRL's HF contesting is, you know, has some HF contesting good practices, interpretations, and suggestions. Take a look at those and read those. And we talked about no log washing, and you know, it's using QRZ.com, spot history, 3830 reports, LOTW, or club log databases. Just don't do that. And you know, but now we see that contest sponsors are starting to shorten the time for you to get your log in after a contest. And I have gotten into the routine that as soon as the contest is over, you know, within 30 minutes to an hour that contest is over, you know, I like to just kind of make sure my log is in order and go ahead and upload that thing to the contest sponsor, because seriously, what you've got is what it is, and you really need to focus on accuracy in logging during the contest, making sure that you have, you know, the best data recorded and send it in. And you know, I really found out that that doing that over the past couple of years, that it hasn't made really any significant difference whatsoever in submitting it almost immediately, or going back over, spending a few days trying to look over your log. Just go ahead and send it in. Using utilities to analyze and correct the log. You know, you can analyze your log, but there's no need to correct it. Replaying the contest. You know, we have the technology now, you know, where we can record entire contests. And of course, with the CQ worldwide contest, if you're going to be, you know, a top contender, they require you to do that now. So don't try to go back and replay that to change the log. I mean, that's just not in the spirit here of competition. Asking others who they worked or if a call sign is correct. You know, I got to tell you right now, it doesn't seem like every season, at least one contest that doesn't go by, I get a phone call, you know, from a friend who's in the contest that says, hey, you worked, you know, XW4ZW, you know, what zone was that he gave, or what was that time? And it's just like, come on, guys, you know, let's just turn in what you have and let's see where it falls. Or fixing off times, band changes. And here's one. Look, when the contest is over, I mean, it's over, all right? When the clock rolls from 23:59 to 00:00, it's over. And just, it's done. Put a fork in it. So the technology that we're seeing here over the past few years is really becoming a game changer. You know, with more and more technology comes more ways to cheat, but by the same token, we have more ways to detect cheating as well. You know, remote operations are really, becoming popular these days. Make sure you specify the transmitter QTH unambiguously and adhere to the receiver distance rules. The remote capabilities, being able to operate remote is just really, really great for folks who are in, antenna restricted areas, or folks who can build a contest station, at a distant location. And I think that's really great for amateur radio. But I have to tell you, by the same token, the opportunity to not be ethical in that operation has increased significantly. And there's been a number of situations that have surfaced about that. Just be smart, and be honest. Be honest here. Crowdsourcing. Well, if you look back at the CQWW 2014 CW contest, there was some egregious cheating that occurred. And it was found through a community effort. And as a result, really looking at things and seeing some things that just didn't add up, Tango Alpha 7 Alpha was disqualified. And as a result, previous years were also disqualified. So, if you think you're going to get on and you're going to do a little cheating and get by with it, it's not going to happen. It's going to be found out. There's few places left here to hide now with the SDR technology, the reverse beacon network, and it just it shows up. And as I said, ethics becomes more important than ever as technology marches on. So I want to encourage you to go to the Worldwide Radio Operators Foundation, WWROF.org, and take a look at their contesting code of ethics. All right, and this is really kind of a pledge. It's a code of ethics, but it's something that we should look at and take seriously, and just pledge these, that I will learn and obey the rules of any contest I enter, including the rules of my entry category. I will obey the rules for amateur radio in my country. I will not modify my log after the contest by using additional data sources to correct call sign exchange errors. I will accept the judging and scoring decisions of the contest sponsor as final. Well, that's kind of important. I mean, I disagreed with some of the final scoring, where I've had had a penalty because of something I didn't log right, and I'm like, I don't like that. And I get upset about it, but that's the rule, and you have to accept it as final. I will adhere to the DX code of contact in my operating style. I will yield my frequency to any emergency communications activity. That's important here where we have a situation over the past few months where we've had a lot of really deadly severe hurricanes come through, and amateur radio has been used for emergency communications during that time. And we need to understand that is one of our priorities. And I will operate my transmitter with sufficient signal quality to minimize interference to others. And that's taking some of that input from stations sufficiently. So with that, I'm going to issue the same challenge tonight that I did to the Contest University gang. I want to challenge you here tonight in this upcoming contest season and going forward to play by the rules, period. Today's sessions that we had in Contest University and the ones that WWROF and Ken are putting on here that started last week, attend those and listen to what's being told in those so that you can gain an effective edge in operating skill. And I want you to be able to attend these sessions and gain an edge in station technology. And then I want you to apply that edge in your next radio sport challenge. And then, most importantly, have fun. And the W5ZN multi-op team will be singing on the bands in the contest. So that's my presentation for this evening. I want to thank these folks here on the screen who have given ethics presentations previously at Contest University that helped form some of the material that was here. And with that, Ken, that is tonight's presentation. Thank you very much.
Okay, Joel, very good. Thank you so much. So here's your chance. If you have any questions, go ahead and fire those off to us, and we'll pick them up. And we've got a little bit of time here, so be happy to take your questions if you have any. And while we're waiting for those, Joel, I'll just share one scenario. When I was president of PVRC, sweepstakes was always a big thing for us, and still is. And every big club has them, or any club for that matter. There's always a few guys that think they're smart with the rules, and we talk about strategies and so on. And this goes to the rules don't disallow a practice. And my position was, and I told the guys, I said, first off, we don't need to do that. We have enough people. Just get on and operate. Spend an extra hour in the chair or whatever. It'll certainly help the final score. And the other thing is, if you're going to do something that maybe the rules don't disallow, think about, okay, what happens at Dayton if they start talking in the hallway? Hey, great, PVRC won sweepstakes, but did you hear about so-and-so and so-and-so, what they were doing? Rules weren't real clear, but they went ahead and did it. Would you be comfortable with those people talking about that? And if not, you probably shouldn't do it then. Just operate straight up, and there's no need to get creative with the rules. So a couple questions here. The first one comes from Bill. He's wondering, what contest logging software do you use? I use WriteLog. I've used it for years. I kind of got hooked on their SO2R capability when they used to sell a box that went with it, and I've continued to use it because it meets my needs. What about you, Joel?
I use N1MM.
Okay, that seems to be the most popular, by the way.
Yep. I've used that now for several years now, and have become comfortable with it and familiar with it. I use it, we use it when I'm hosting a multi-op, or if I'm running single op, SO2R. So that's what I use.
Yeah, I haven't in recent years, but there were quite a few years where I would operate a W3LPLs for ARRLCW, and for years Frank used, I think it was CT, before some of the newer stuff came out, and a couple of people kept asking him, hey, how come you're not using this or this new software that came out? And he's like, well, why? What I have now does everything I need to. It's stable. It doesn't crash. What is the benefit of changing? So that's kind of what I fall into, and sounds like you as well.
Well, I was in that same boat. CT was what I used for years prior to finally kind of being pushed over to N1MM to utilize some of its other features.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, next question comes from Bob. Could you define log padding, please?
Log padding, yeah. Log padding is, let's say that you go back to your log after a contest, or even during the contest, and I'll give you an example. You pull out the roster, the club members from your local club, and you just say, oh, let's see here. Gosh, we have 25 members in the local club. I'm just going to start adding these folks into my log, throughout the contest. You didn't really work them, but you're padding that log with some extra contacts. That's one example that I like to use, because it's something that is out there that's tempting to do, and it's easy to do. But those call signs, if you put those in, or if someone works only you, that's going to be identified as a unique station that you worked that no one else did. But that's log padding.
And I think that was one of the undoings of UT5 UGR, who you referenced, and especially, you talk about new technology being used to police some of these activities, and especially on CW, you could follow someone, who they're working, and all of a sudden some calls start appearing in their log which aren't being tracked on the SDR. You say, wait a minute, where did those come from? So.
Yeah.
Okay, last call. Let's see. Okay, I was wondering about working a shift. I was wondering about working multi and then going home and working. Oh, okay. So, say you're operating from W5ZN multi-op, multi-single. Is it okay to go home and do a little bit of single op from your home QTH as well?
Uh, I'm not up on the rules on all of the contests. Some of the contests don't allow that. And I don't remember off the top of my head, Ken, you may, but some of them specifically do not allow that.
Yeah, I think most of them do allow it, but here's the catch. You can't go home and just work, the station you were at and then that's it. I think for the most part, Joel's right. Check the rules for the individual contest because it may vary, but I know guys, this is fairly common. We'll go home and they'll operate for an hour or two from home and go up and down the band and work everything. I think that's fine. It's just where it gets a little sticky is if you just only work, the station you just came from or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
So, okay. All right. I think that's it. Final call. And, you mentioned this, Joel, and that's what I always try to tell people to respect the sport. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the only thing we got going for it. If people don't do that, then it hurts the game, and it really is what makes it fun and makes it fair. Most of these rules shouldn't even have to be written, in my opinion. I mean, it's just common sense, and if you respect the sport and so on, they're black and white, as you say. So, okay, just a couple of people saying thanks, and anything else, Joel, before we close it out?
No, thank you, Ken, for inviting me here. I see a number of folks in the group tonight that I know that are friends of mine. I want to thank them for joining. I see my good buddy Ron Evans, K5XK, on the list. Ron, hello to you, and look forward to seeing you at the ADXA meeting here in a few months. So that's it. Thanks, Ken. Appreciate it. And thanks, everyone, for joining tonight.
All right. Thanks so much, Joel. On behalf of the WWRF, Worldwide Radio Operators Foundation, glad you could do this. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. As I said, this will be posted on the WWROF webpage under the webinar archive link, and I'll send out a notice as well. But let your friends know it's a good way to spend 30, 45 minutes just listening, checking out the presentation. Have a good one, everyone. See you this contest season. Good luck. Take care. Bye-bye.